Hello everyone. Welcome to the AWS VPC creation playlist. So in this series, we will cover everything from VPC basics to add-on setups. So before starting on AWS VPC directly, today we'll discuss the basics of networking, as I think it's very important for understanding networking within the VPC. So yeah, let's get started. Basics of networking, we'll see a few points. We'll start from the IP addresses. We'll see what is IPv4 address, IPv6 address, what are the private IP addresses, what are the public IP addresses, and last thing we'll see is what are the CIDR blocks. Okay, so what is IP address? I would say every device connected to the internet has unique IP address, which is nothing but identity of your device. Let's say any kind of device, if you are using any mobile, any laptop which is connected of the internet, it should have a unique IP address, which is nothing but identity of your device. So if you search what is my IP address on Google, you'll be able to see your public IP address. We can say there are two versions of IP addresses. First one is IPv4 and second one is IPv6. So these are the two versions of IP addresses. IPv4 address uses the 32 bits and written in 4 decimal points, which is separated by the... Here is the example of IPv4 address, which is divided into the 4 blocks. Also, they are separated by dots and each block can range up to the 255 from 0 to 255. We will see like how we can calculate the ranges of the IP addresses. Okay, so as IPv4 address is just 32 bits, we can say almost there are 4.3 billion unique IP addresses, unique IPv4 addresses. Okay, I hope that's clear. IPv6, it uses 128 bits written as 8 blocks of hexadecimal characters separated by the colons. So IPv6 uses 128 bits written as 8 blocks of hexadecimal characters separated by the colons. This is little different than IPv4. Let's see an example of IPv6. IPv6 address, so if you see this IPv6 address, is divided into the 8 blocks, which includes numbers as well as the characters, and which is separated by the colon. So if IPv6 address uses 120 bit, so we can say they support almost 340 duodecline unique IP addresses, which is practically infinite number. So we can say we have practically infinite IPv6 addresses. Okay, so this is about IPv4 and IPv6. So next thing is IPv4 address range. We will just focus on the IPv4 for this video or for this series. Okay, so about IPv4 address range, we can say IPv4 address is divided into the 4 blocks and each block is ranging from 0 to 255. Let's see one example. C, so this is IP, example of IPv4 address range. So here each block can max reach range to 255, from 0 to 255. Due to this limited number of available addresses, somewhere IPv4 is running out of unique IP addresses, which is why the IPv6 was introduced. Okay, so let's see how we can see the number of IP addresses within this range. So if we consider this is the base IP, so which is started from 192.168.0, and as we mentioned, each block ranging from 0 to 255. So the next IP address will become 192.168.0.1. Next will become 2. Next will become 3. So likewise, this will range up to the 255. So this is how we calculate the number of IP addresses within any IP address range. So what after this last block reaches to the 255? For the next IP address, the last block which has reached to the 255 will reset to 0. And the previous block will get incremented by 1. So likewise, again, the same process happens. This will become so. Likewise, this will also reach to the... Once the last block reached to the 255, it will get reset to 0 and the previous block gets incremented by... So let us say it will get reset to 0 and this will get incremented by 1. So likewise, we can do the calculate the IP addresses within any IP address range. Okay, I hope that is clear. So this is about the logic behind IP addresses within any given IP address range. Okay, so next thing, we will see what are the private IP address and public IP address. So private IP addresses are reserved for use within the private networks. So they are reserved only to use in private networks only, and they are not routable over the internet. So they can be used within private network only. So we have private address IP range, and we have private IP address ranges, which are reserved to use within the private network. Public IP address. So public IP address are globally unique, and they use for device communication over the internet. Public IP address are unique. They are globally unique. Public IP address cannot be, I would say, cannot be repeat. It will never happen. two devices has the same public IP address within the different networks. So you can say public IP address unique. But in case of private IP address is unique within the network. So within your private network, private IP addresses are unique. So what does that mean? That means private IP address can be repeat within different private network. Okay. So as public IP addresses are globally unique, private IP addresses are unique, but they are unique within the network. Within the private network, and private IP addresses can be repeated within the different private network. Okay, so this is about the private IP addresses. Next thing we'll discuss, what are the CIDR block? So CIDR block is just a notation used to define IP address ranges in a more flexible and efficient way. So let us say we will take one example of one CIDR block. So this is how the CIDR block looks. How CIDR block looks like and how we can calculate the range between any provided CIDR block. So in CDEF log, the first part we can say base IP and the second part is subnet mask. So this first part is base IP and the second part is the subnet mask. So let's say I want to calculate the IP address within this given CIDF log. Okay, so to calculate the number of IP addresses within provided CIDF log, we use one formula. So this is the formula where we can calculate the number of IP addresses within any CIDF. So let's say how we can calculate the number of IP addresses within this CIW. So let's say 2 raised to 32 minus n. In our case, n is 24, so it will become 2 raised to 8, which is nothing but 256. So we can say in this particular CIDR block, we will be having 256 different IP addresses or 256 unique IP addresses. So let's see how we can get those 256 IP addresses. So we know our base IP, which is 192.1168.0, and we know how each block can be ranges from 0 to 255, and how we can get the range of IP addresses or the number of IP addresses from any given IP address range. So here next IP address will become 192.168.01. Here next will become 2. So likewise this will reach to 255. As we know, this provided CIDR block has 256 IP addresses, and these are the 256 IP addresses. So now you know like how to calculate total number of IP addresses within any provided CIDR block, and also you can get those 256 IP addresses. As we know, like IPv4 addresses divided into 4 blocks, and each block can range from 0 to 255. Okay, let's take another example for better understanding. So let's say we have this CIDR block and we need to calculate the total number of IP addresses within this CIDR. So this is just a notation to define IP addresses range in a better way. Okay, so here the formula will become 2 raised to 32 minus n, which is nothing but 2 raised to 32 minus 16 eventually, which will become 2 raised to 16, and which is nothing but 65,536. So in this case, we can say in this particular CDAP block, or in this given CIDAP block, we have total 65,536 IP addresses, and if we want to get those IP addresses, we know how we can calculate those IP addresses, right? We know the base IP address, which started from the 10.0 no row. Each block is ranging from 0 to 255. Then, after reaching it to the 255, that particular block will get reset to 0, and the previous block will get increased by 1. So likewise, in this provided CIDR block, we'll be having 65,536 IP addresses, and these are the 65,536 IP addresses, starting from 10.0 to 10.25.25. Don't worry, and we don't need to calculate these IP addresses every time. We do have some websites which will provide us the number of IP addresses, first IP address, last IP address, and total number of IP addresses within any provided CIDR block, so that we can use that particular website and get those total number of IP addresses and the IP address range. Okay, so I hope this is clear. So this is all about the CIDR block. So let's revise quickly whatever we have seen today. We have seen about what is IP address, what is IPv4, and what is IPv6, how we can define the IPv4 address. This is how IPv6 address looks like. Now we know how we can calculate the IP addresses within any provided IP address range. Also, we have seen what is private IP address, what is public IP address, how private IP address is unique within the network and it can be repetitive within the different private network. We have the desired private IP address ranges with us. So any IP address within this range, if you see in future, it will be a private IP address. Public IP addresses are globally unique. They are, we can say this is public IP address is nothing but unique identification of your particular device. Now the CIDR block is just a notation used to define IP address ranges in a more flexible way. Now we know how we can make use of this formula. We know what is base IP, we know what is subnet mask, and we know how we can get total number of IP addresses within any provided CIDR block. So likewise, we can calculate total number of IP addresses within provided any CIDR block. Okay, so I think, yeah, that's all for today's video. In the next one, we'll start creating our first VPC and we'll understand it step by step. Yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit bell icon so you won't miss any updates. If you have any questions or need clarification, feel free to drop them into the comments below. I'll happy to help. Okay, so thanks for watching and stay tuned. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.